Alrighty, everybody. Welcome back to Untangled. Today, I was telling him I'm super excited to talk to him. I have Elio Venezuela. He's a seasoned customer experience and market strategy leader with over a decade of success driving business growth, customer loyalty, and operational excellence across global markets. Currently, he's serving as the Assistant Director of Customer Experience at Principal Financial Group. Elio leads initiatives that blend strategic leadership, user-centered design, and data-driven insights to elevate customer satisfaction and retention. Elio, thank you so much for joining. Welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me. Super excited to be here today.
So, Elio, when we talked before, one of the reasons why I wanted a chance to interview you is because you are a perfect blend of all things data, right? So, for my audience, can you talk a little bit about how you got into customer experience?
Absolutely. My background is in public relations. I went to school for public relations, and soon after working in New York for a few years, I discovered that my passion was all about the customer. And as soon as I started working in public relations, I started noticing trends on marketing. So got more and more in depth into marketing. And as you know, marketing is getting more and more data driven. So the more marketing I got into my blood, the more data I needed. So day after day, I started consuming more data, and it became obsession over time. So nowadays, I work closer to marketing. I am more on the customer experience, but it's always with that data as the at the core of the work that I do for sure.
So I talk about customer experience in a slightly different way than I think you do. So can you share with my audience when you say customer experience, what does that mean?
Great. I think we talked about this before, right? To me, customer experience is anything, any interaction that a customer or a potential customer, consumer has with your company. And that's going to be before the purchase, during purchase, after the purchase. And the whole goal is for them to have an enjoyable experience, to have a good relationship, and to stay engaged with you. So that could be either as they're purchasing something, if you say as an example, or to make it better for them to utilize one of your services or the like. So to me, is that kind of like overarching concept that when we're talking about customer experience?
So then how does customer experience intersect with user experience?
Great. I think they're super closely related, to be honest. The more I work with in this industry, the more I get to see and I get to interact with user interfaces or UX as well, and with designers day to day. So, I mean, the work that I do and how I do it, how I like to do it, is has to involve a designer, whomever that's going to be designing the experience, how it's going to look like. With a marketer, somebody's going to be writing, saying the right things, and somebody that's going to be enabling, right? The software engineer or whomever is going to be. So those three, alongside with kind of my expertise, we create the experience. What are they going to look for? What are customers going to do? How we're going to measure? Where they're going to click? What do we want them to do after? And all these practices, all these best practices intermingle with each other are going to end up with the optimal experience.
How do you, if you remember, how did you get introduced to user experience design? And we'll start with user experience design. How were you introduced to that?
I think it was many years ago. I cannot tell the maybe the specific first time that I got to introduce to like my first UI or UXer. What I would tell you that it changed my life for the good. It was a few years back that I got to work with IDO, the design company, the design consultant that started shifting my mind about design and the relevance of design. After that, closely enough, I started reading a book, Creative Confidence, by one of the Kelly brothers from IDEO founders. And that started shifting into my head and started to tell me, all right, there is something more. It's not just how things look, but how we create the whole experience, how we think. And that started making me go into a different mindset of, all right, design is not just how things look or how they appear, but also it's deeper than that. And that's when I started getting more into human-centered design and that kind of practice.
How has that knowledge or that awareness impacted how you work today?
That's a deep question for me. And I'm not saying this because I'm in your show or anything, but to me, that book, Creative Confidence, was a huge breakthrough in my personal life and in my work life. Because I don't know if you read it or if any of your listeners have read this, but essentially it opens the book saying like everybody's a good designer, everybody can design, and you have kind of like just let it out. Many times we are constrained by society or whatever, and not wanting to draw or saying you're not a good artist because you compare yourself, but there's an opportunity for all of us to be designers. So it changed that perspective to me for me a lot. and it has helped me to see the value, like I was saying before, of good design and good centricity in the customer. And there are many ways that we can achieve that, of course.
So I would imagine most of my listeners would want to know, was there what specifically? Because if we could, and then again, thinking about your background, I was so excited. I was like, this is what we hope to create, right? Like if I could have a million of you, that would be amazing. So was there anything in the particular or anything that going forward we can say to help, get more people to kind of buy into design thinking and customer centricity the way you have?
I would say that human-centered design, design centricity, does not have to be the artsy kind of profile that people think of all the time. It can be related to data. It can be related to customer pain points, journey mapping, and I feel that the more I progress in my career, the more it's harder for me to define what I am. Like I would say you don't have to be boxed into one specific area. I think the modern professional has to have like a myriad of specialties, right? We have to have knowledge, and especially with the rise of AI and things like that, we need to be kind of in the know at least of a lot of these best practices. We need to think and know what agile, for example, is. We have to think or know a little bit about journey mapping. We have to know a little bit about human-centered design, so on and so forth. So I think it makes us more holistic in nature, and always having that perspective from for me is to one is the customer perspective and the other is going to be the business perspective. So to me, the more you can complement to that, the better is going to be the result for both of these parties.
So let's talk about that business perspective, because if nothing else, I hope my listeners take that piece away, right? So, like I mentioned, you're all things data. So, talk to me about how you communicate your data, the research back to the business, right? And what are some lessons you've learned in making sure that whatever you're communicating is influential?
Where I'm working right now, and I think throughout my work, one of the things that we've been trying to implement a lot is journey management. And by journey management, what we mean by that is we consider the customer journey, right? We were talking about acquisition through servicing and everything in between. And whenever we're talking about journey management, we're also talking about, all right, what is the step one, two, three? And within each one of those steps, we capture how customers are feeling, how customers are, what are the pain points, the opportunities, and we're also capturing some of the data that we're talking about. So we're capturing, if we have a VOC, kind of the voice of the customer deployed, we're capturing how much are they recommending us, how much satisfaction, how easy are we, and especially, how are the behaviors, right? So are they clicking in the parts that we want them to click? Are they behaving in the way that we want them to behave, or that we want them to obtain a better, to achieve whatever goal we have in mind? So at the end of the day, I think journey management is this holistic perspective and the different parts that we can include in there.
Thinking about like your KPIs or your metrics, at least in your experience, what metrics should designers or UXers in general, right? So researchers, content strategists, which metrics should we look to see an impact in?
That would be a loaded question, and I think that would depend on the project that you're engaged on, right? And the company and the focus of the company. I could give you a list and the things that I usually have, which are like ease of use or satisfaction. If you're looking from that customer perspective, right, from that customer behavior, but we're also looking into clicks. We're looking into, all right, how are people behaving, right? How are they engaging with whatever experience we portray in there. But then you have so you have what are they doing? How are they feeling? But at the end of the day, we also want to know who is doing what. So who, what, and why are going to be like the three bigger categories that we are always looking. And it's going to depend according to whatever data you have available set up to gather in there. So it's a close relationship that you have in partnership with your technology partners, right? So if you're going to be looking at the why, you're going to be looking into like a VOC type of kind of information. So you're going to be looking at CSAT, and usually those are captured through a survey. Then you have the what they're doing. Those are captured usually through tools like Google Analytics and the like. But when you're looking into the who, that's completely up to the business, right? And that's like you want to know what kind of customer is coming, how much money do they have with you, how much engagement do they have with you. So that history usually capturing in different areas. So it's partnering with each one of these people, each one of these teams, setting up the right tools to gather the feedback. And at the end of the day, one thing is capturing the feedback and capturing the information, the other is analyzing. So Again, I'll put the plug in there for utilizing whatever is available for you, especially in these days, AI, to help you analyze and get insights that are going to be meaningful for the business ultimately.
So I heard about this and I thought I'd get your opinion because I haven't seen it yet, right? But I understand that there are now AI type tools for journey mapping. Have you seen these? And if so, what, if any, thoughts do you have?
I think I've heard of them. I mean, I've seen. We went through some vendors not too long ago. They share with us some tools that enhance journey maps. I would say, and they were okay. I mean, at this point, at this early point with this technology, I would say that we have to be cautious because they're in the early stages and they're progressing super fast. So I cannot say like maybe it's going to be a completely different scenario in 2 weeks or maybe 2 months or 2 years. But I think the key here is going to be that they enhance whatever work we're doing and they help us do it faster. And that's what kind of what we're doing even today in many areas. In my own company right now, what we're doing is whatever information we gather, let's say as a customer interview or something, utilizing the AI tools to summarize, for example, or utilizing tools to gather insights or gather trends, something that it would take you. I don't know if you've done it in the past, or maybe your listeners have done it in the past, working with sticky notes, right? When you have like a wall of sticky notes completely covering your your house or completely covering your office space, then putting the dots and then organizing, all that can be done in a couple minutes today, right? So depending on the tool, where you gather the information and where you analyze, you can utilize a lot of these resources and technology to optimize a lot of the processes. So I would say the ones that I've been exposed to, which are maybe limited, have been okay, but I believe that there's a lot of opportunities, which I bet there are a lot of providers out there that are thinking about doing that soon.
Okay. So I want to go back into kind of like you CX. So one of the things that I've been telling people is at some point I feel like UXers get to like to where they cap out, right? And there are some spaces like CX that I think are relevant that we could take our skills into. So for people who are thinking about pivoting from UX to CX, what thoughts or advice might you give them?
Great question. So I would say one, look into whatever the business is looking for, right? Try to understand from the strategic perspective. Try to understand because I think one of the biggest dances that I do day in and day out is that of, all right, how can I please both? And it's kind of like my own nature to try to please people, and that's why I fit so well under the CX practitioner kind of label because I try to please individuals. I want to please the business. I want to please the customer. So I had to figure out a way how to make everybody happy. So I would say number one, look for the strategy. The second thing is do not look at perfection. I think that's one of the things that I've seen the most with my designer friends that we always want to achieve and people want to achieve like, oh, it's gonna be the most beautiful and it's gonna be the most. I'm gonna get an award and I'm gonna like yes, that's the ultimate perspective. That will be your north star. But let's take 5 steps back and look at something more feasible, right? That may be looking the most, but like let's see what can be our MVP one and test that out and see how it behaves with the customer, how if the customers are reacting, how even proxies are reacting, and from then on develop, see how it achieves some of the goals that you have and evolve. So strategy will be one, desire like to kind of like scope down things, and three, the topic that we've been talking about here is data, right? Get involved with data. Do not be scared of data and seek it out and sometimes it may be super hard to obtain it, but get your hands dirty. I believe a lot of companies nowadays have access to a lot of the what that we were talking earlier today, right? So get involved, take a class on Google Analytics or something that is going to enable you to get more versed into those conversations and be able to provide feedback. I mean, many times my UX partners are always the ones bringing something from outside in that helps us. Oh, we didn't think about that, and I feel that it could be so much more valuable if we involve them more in more strategic conversations as well.
I hope everybody hears that, right? They want your thoughts. They want you to contribute to the conversation. Okay, so what are some topics that you're interested in right now? What are some things that are getting your attention currently?
In the world of I am passionate. I'm becoming more and more passionate about AI. I will not lie. It's becoming something that we're utilizing a lot internally, and I'm getting more and more. passionate outside of work. I mean, not too long ago, we got the release of GPT-5. I was listening to an interview that Sam Altman, the CEO of OpenAI, was giving, and I was just shocked at like how far out people are thinking these days about AI, the power of AI, and how that's gonna be modifying and changing a lot of the work that we do. I mean, talking about how I don't remember the percentage of entry level jobs are gonna be changing and how that's going to be affecting. And I mean, for goodness sakes, I'm using now Copilot to do designs of like storyboard myself, which I'm not that great of an artist, but I can create prompt and creating storyboards or creating basic prototypes that people can design. I feel to me that's kind of the next frontier where we're going, which is becoming a lot of passion for me. And in the many aspects, I was just telling you design perhaps, but it's also working, like I was saying, with summary of interviews, but we're also even creating now, we can create like artificial segmentation, so we can test our ideas or prototypes or concepts with artificial kind of created from our customer base. We can test it out and see how would they react, how would they engage with the different things that we're producing. So that to me is becoming something that is quite passionate now, getting quite passionate about. And there's so much. I think like sometimes like every day I receive, I don't know how many emails from new vendors and new companies that do something different on AI. And I'm not saying no to all of them, but I'm taking like selectively listening in because you don't know what you don't know. And at this point, nobody knows everything. So we're learning.
And then you're constantly learning. So I think so. I watched a presentation last Friday, and this is happening on the same day that ChatGPT 5 comes out, and it was like everything I knew 2 weeks ago, right? Like now I got to go brush up again. Thinking about AI, how do okay? Let me back up and tell you. So a couple months ago, one of my researchers uh, told me to go take this AI moderated study, right? And so then I say the robot, right? The robot is asking me questions and asked me, where do I see or how do I see AI affecting the role of a researcher in 5 years? So once I got past that moment, right? Like the robot just asked me a question. I gave it an answer. So I'll ask you the same question. How do you think AI will affect the role of a CX manager or the CX roles in general?
I think it's gonna be big. I think it's gonna be big. I cannot tell you the specific time frame or when that's gonna happen, but we're using a lot of AI, way more than probably your regular folk will be using. And I'm trying to like engage on purpose on it day by day, like on a daily basis. I'm pushing myself. All right, let me do that on AI too. And I'm not looking into like at first you probably will see the novelty of all right, make me a picture of myself as a cat or make me a caricature or whatever, right? I mean, that was initially, but we're at the point where now like not only we are summarizing, I mean, I'm doing that actively a lot, right? Summarizing brainstorming session or summarizing feedback from customers, but now we're like looking into other things, like I was saying, like synthetic audiences. We're looking into other opportunities that enable us to make our job faster, and not only faster but like with a different kind of accuracy. So if I put different data points into the models, what is it going to say? I mean, I can see so much in terms of data and I can scroll through so much. So what can the AI? Maybe they're going to find something different out. Maybe I have a blind spot into something. So I would say that it's going to change a lot. I don't know like how is that going to affect specifically hiring practices or anything like that, but certainly it's helping us do the work faster, more accurate. And I would say the biggest thing that is helping us to do is to think, to spend that time in thinking, all right, let me push it further. Let me go into another level that perhaps we didn't have in before. And that to me is the big opportunity that we have. Because one thing is, like I was saying, doing the fun thing and creating new content, utilizing the LLMs for whatever you have. But the other is like, all right, let's push it and let's think about how it can inspire you to do something. And I want to put that note in there. It's not going to replace so much, but rather it's going to enhance our work a lot more.
So, if I can, I would love to get your thoughts on the synthetic users because I saw a presentation on this the other day. So, and I have a ton of questions for someone who is looking at this data and wanting to make some sort of a business decision. So, first, how do you feel confident that the information that you're getting back from these synthetic users is something that you can make a business decision on?
To me, I wouldn't say that I'm making business decisions on in a lot of with a lot of this information at this point. Again,
Okay.
because it's so early, right? So we're using it as one of the steps as we validate different ideas and everything. So I would say initially in our own normal lives we use, all right, this is what I think people are gonna react. So we have a lot of gut feelings. Then I run it perhaps by that synthetic audience, and we see some personal behaviors. Prompt writing is going to be key in those things, so you're asking them several things, and then you have to continue validating. I mean, I don't know if I will feel comfortable for I don't know the foreseeable future, but like I feel that we always need to check with the customer, at least at this point, uh, to be able to get that sense. So I would say at this stage of development, they're one of the parts, but it's not certainly not helping us make the decision. But again, becoming one another checkpoint that helps us to get faster to testing or concept development, and then we're gonna do Q and A, and then we're gonna do A/B. I mean, this always gonna be at this stage part, but not the end all be all for everything.
Okay, okay, that's fair. I'm still interested to see somebody use it. Because like I said, I saw an interesting presentation. And I think a lot of times with AI, I have to say like how I process it is like, oh crap, what? And then it's like, okay, how do I use it? Okay, anything else that you are keeping your eye on in the CX space?
I mentioned earlier about journey management. I think that's one of the things that I'm getting also more captivated about is so you probably heard and you guys have probably heard about journey mapping, right? How is this tool that we're able to see and visualize kind of the customer experience. Well, journey management is becoming more interesting to me is because I'm able to see a lot of these things together in one place alongside with this data part that I'm so there are a lot of tools out there. They're helping us not only see this, let's call it like the softer part, right? All right, how does the customer feel, or what are they thinking, or what are they doing, where are they clicking? But when I can see the raw data or the hard data in there telling me, you know what, at this specific touch point, customers are failing, or they're clicking away, or their satisfaction is not. I when I can see all that, it provides a different kind of sense of the story. So it's becoming more and more like something that enables us to tell the stories better. And again, I run it, I'm not kidding, we run it by AI tools to help us tell the story, saying like, hey, this is what we see in the customer, this is the data that I'm capturing, this is the kind of angle that I want to take. AI help me tell the story, and again, we enhance it from there. Again, that checkup with AI is something that I'm doing proactively a lot to help me kind of take these things to the next level.
So when you talk about building out a story, I think that's another one of those words that we all kind of think of differently. So when you say a story, what goes into it?
So the story that I'm telling you about, for example, is that before we start, and this is in a lot of places, before we start and dedicate resources, and by resources we're talking about people, hands on keyboards, right? We usually need to have like some sort of discovery process where we identify the opportunity and we prioritize it, right? According to comparison. Comparison. I have these 10 things that I want to do. I need to know which one is going to produce the more value for the customer and for the business. So a lot of the times what happens is that in order to get to that comparison, comparing apples to apples to say so, we go through a lot of the data, we put it together and we create a presentation or we create something that helps us tell the story that I'm telling you about. So it's not like a story per se. Sometimes it becomes a storyline or a storyboard that we tell and we compare, but overall it's something that we kind of utilize to compare all the projects and opportunities that we have in front of us.
When you talk about, you know, value to the business, value to the customer, and I know it could range, but where are some places UXers can go to get that kind of data? Like, are there teams that they can partner with, or people they should try to find in their organizations to be able to tell that story, but with a number?
I would always go first with those product owners, product managers, whomever has like the management of the day to day of the product or the tool that you're trying to measure or you're working with, right? So usually those individuals have access to analysts or have access to other individuals that have kind of that data. So that would be my number one, which is gonna be probably on a basic level, on a kind of like usability level. But then when you want to go deeper, you need to talk to either your data people, your technology people, your marketing operations to start getting a sense what is happening out there. So marketing operations may be in charge of your marketing campaign. So you may be able to see the behavior of individuals when they interact with your mail, with your emails, or any other things like that. Then you talk to some other team that may be in charge of the web performance. So I would say the more people you can get involved from different areas, the better. And the more conversations you have, the more doors you're gonna start getting and seeing open to the data, because a lot of places have this data segmented in a lot of places, and that's one of the challenges that you're gonna see. But at least what I see and I feel sometimes is like I submit orders and I submit requests all over the place, but I become, and that's one of the values that I try to provide to my company, to my role, is like I become the center point. It's like, oh, we know that he has collected the what, the who, the why, and he can tell a little bit more of the story. So the more you do this, the more you're gonna become, I would say, indispensable for the process, and the more people are gonna be looking up to you for the data as well.
That is my favorite part. So, can we spend a little time talking about kind of those softer skills, right? So, you would have to reach out to those people and build some sort of relationship so that they would want to share that kind of information with you. So, can you talk about like your process for that? What's some advice you would give to those people who are like, I'm an introvert, I don't want to talk to anybody, right? What would you tell them?
That is a good question because it's different, right? It's different with everything. But I was telling you at the beginning, I try one of the, like, maybe this is gonna be a little background, but like one of the strengths that a few years ago I took the Strength Finder, and one of the key things that I got from there was empathy. So trying to put yourself in the shoes of others. So that's one of my superpowers that I believe I have. So because I work enough with these people, I know what are the pain points of a product manager. I know what the pain points are of the software people. So I try to come to them instead of telling them, hey, I need this number, give it to me right now. I try to be like, hey, I saw the thing that you did that was awesome. How can I help you? So I try to do something for them before I ask them. And that's kind of like the basic thing. The other is, I would say, 7 habits of highly effective people. Try to first seek to understand and then to be understood. So if you don't know anything about the department or the individual that you're seeking information from, try to understand what are they doing, how are they doing it, what are the main challenges, and then try to seek to be understood. All right, this is what I do, this is what I'm seeking. This is how we can create a symbiotic relationship, because somebody's not going to just be giving you numbers or providing you with this data just because. We all want to get something out of it, and there's a lot of things. I mean, as UXers, CXers, we can we have a lot of exposure to different kind of people, and we can always a big shout out in front of a bigger crowd can go a long ways. So calling out, hey, I got this because I had a relationship with this guy or this gal. Thank you so much for getting me this. So I think there are different ways that you can do it that are going to help at the end of the day both, and even more, it's going to help the company as well.
That's excellent. That is excellent. So you touched on some of your strengths. So I'll ask you, what other than your social skills and kind of taking this with them approach, what are some of your other superpowers? What's made you so successful?
So again, from that strength finder test that you usually take those things, and I usually don't believe in them, but that one impacted me a lot. So empathy was one. The other one was strategic thinking, and the third is like I like to get things done. I don't like to sit around and just like chew on something for too long. Sometimes I tend to be a little too rash to make decisions and to do things, but at the same time, I know that it's a superpower that my partners know work, and they know that I'm gonna get the things done, and I'm not just gonna sit around and talk about the strategy and create a PowerPoint and be there for days or weeks. So I like to get it done on this, and one of the things that I've been able to do a lot is chunk it out and eat the elephant by pieces, to say so. So I was telling you earlier that MVP one, that's one of my favorite things to do, and it's like, let's. That's what you're saying is great. Let's bring it down 10 steps down, because we know that it's going to take 15 months to get it done the nice ways that you're thinking. Let's improve this feature for this or the design for this, and you're going to impact that. You're going to measure the heck out of it, and that's going to be something that you do. And then you're going to show it to everybody, say, this is what we accomplished with this little change. Imagine what we can do on the next MVP. So you keep collecting that and telling the story with data. At the end of the day, data is going to tell the story, and that's going to be one of the things that I will say also. I've learned, and I'm still learning to utilize data more and more.
So you talked about being able to scale people back as a superpower, and it definitely is. It definitely is. Do you have any like success stories that come to mind where you took that approach and the business was able to appreciate it or see some value out of it?
I think we see it day to day. I would say a few years back, one experience that we had is that we were creating really personalized campaigns for that was the goal, to create personalized marketing campaigns, and with that we were creating the emails and landing sites, and with that also then we were creating a new um, customer success team. So it was a big humongous project that if you have taken the whole thing, it would have taken, without releasing anything in between, probably a year, because it was specific segment. It was like 6 segments that we were creating it for. So we were like, let's chunk it out. Let's create the email first. And when you have an email, probably you're gonna think we need to, like, we work on a subject for an email for like days. I remember. But again, piece by piece, we started building. All right, first the subject, then the text. And these are the days before AI was so popular, right? So nowadays probably we can do it faster. I'm doing one segment at a time. So let's release one segment with the email. Let's see how the email behaves, how people react to the email. We got a good response. Now let's create the site. And from there we kept going on and on and on until we ultimately created the success, customer success team and everything. But again, it takes a village to do each one of the steps and to be super methodical in not scaling it up really quickly, because it can get out of scope really quickly because we all get excited. We all see the value. We all, at least I do. We see the value. We see the reactions of the people. We see the how things are measuring and looking great, and we want to do more. But we need to be methodical. Otherwise, I mean, we're gonna go crazy and not gonna have a life after.
So for UXers, we always suffer from scope creep. So what advice would you have for UXers in trying to manage that scope?
And I think everybody gets go creep. Maybe it's me too. So I would say I get it too. Uh,
You know, because I feel like developers have figured it out, right? Like you tell a developer, "Oh, can you add this, this, this?" And they're like, I've seen teams just say no, right? But with designers and researchers, I think we just kind of try to pile it in. So, what advice would you have?
I don't know if it's advice so much, but rather what I've seen success is whatever I think, I know I can minimize it more to the minimal, like an order, a less order or something like that. So it's always try to be like, I never say no because I want the designer. The designer, I need a designer and everything. So whatever you're thinking is great, and keep that. Please do not delete or do anything to it. Let's go back, like I've been saying a lot, a couple notches, and bring it down to maybe something minimal, because it's going to be easier for the developer to achieve within their agile methodology or whatever they're following, right? Because a lot of times we can design and we can test and have everything ready, but the developers are going to have 6 weeks sprints and or 9 weeks or whatever, and they're not going to be ready for us until 15 more weeks. So how can we like maybe put a little feature improvement on this release and then on the other? So my thing is always be testing, always be releasing as much as possible. And to do that, you have to do it in the most minimal value. But with an effect, there is going to be measure. I keep saying that because otherwise you cannot, you have to prove the case. And if you want to increase the size of the team, you want to get more, whatever, you have to prove the value. And to prove the value, you have to have.
And establish those numbers up front, right? Like you don't want to wait till the end and it's like, well, let's just find something. You need to know what you're working toward.
And,
Okay.
and the and the numbers are gonna change, right? I mean,
Yeah.
sometimes they're gonna be like, all right, how many downloaded X, or how many people you were able to release it. That's gonna be a number, or you were able to, how many people are using it, or how, so it's going to depend on the original goal, and that's something that we do a lot with our business partners. That they come and say, all right, we want to achieve X, or like we want to have X more business, or like maybe we're not going to be able to get a lot of business. But what about the other side? Look for the other angle, right? What if we can save you money because people are not going to be calling the call center for you because of this anymore? What if we're going to be looking into retention, so people are going to stay with you longer? So there are different ways that are going to be dependent on the case that are brought to you by the business.
So you spend a lot of time, it seems, learning and exploring new things. Is that like a personal goal? Do you have dedicated time? How do you do that? And let me tell you why I asked the question. Because as a leader, I'm always trying to get my team to like go learn more stuff, right? Go do more things, get more experience. But the pushback I get sometimes is like I don't have time, right? I have my day job and I don't have time. But you're over here and you're like learning all kinds of things. So Are there guardrails? What have you done to make sure that you have time to continue growing yourself and your skill set?
I don't know if I have more time than I mean we all have 24 hours, right? And I have 4 kids that are quite I have a wife and 4 kids, so we're quite busy on a lot of things day to day. I think that I try to capture value of a lot of the things that I do a lot. I mean, like I said before, like I consider super precious the time that I have with vendors or consultants. So whenever a big consulting firm or people like I was saying before, IDO or companies like that come we work and we engage with them. To me, that's precious time. So I ask as many questions as possible. If we can go to their offices, we'll go to the office, we'll ask, and they provide recommendation. I tell the recommendation, we read the books, whatever they do, and it takes me probably longer than anybody to read the books, but because like I said, we're all busy, right? But at the end of the day, try to like get snippet from everything and try to get inspiration. So I think more than a suggestion is like be curious and be always trying to get something. I mean, every interaction that I and every work and every project that I have, I try to learn something. That sounds really cliche, but try to be like, all right, that's something different that I haven't thought about it. Kind of like bookmark it in your head in a way. And try to look. I mean, on the different books, and that book that I was referring to before is one of the design books. But like, try to get out of your comfort zone on things that you read or things that you watch, videos or YouTube or Twitter or TikTok, whatever. So it's a little bit different. I think that's my biggest. I try to do the analogous thinking a lot of times. Like, all right, I work in a financial institution which has a lot of rules. We have a lot of regulations and we have a lot of bureaucracy internally and politics, what have you. But at the same time, we need to learn from a firefighter, or we can learn from a design studio that does something else, or from a bird watcher, or whatever, right? So there are opportunities for us to learn from everything, and I think we need to just start putting more of those things in our heads and just consume. Try not to. I would say my biggest thing is not focus on one little thing. Not like read all about design the rest of my life or about CX. I cannot be submerged on that. I need to be exploring a lot of different topics.
So in for especially for UX research, I tell everybody who's interested in the space, I give them a short list of books that is like before you get into UX, right? Like go read these books and see if you still want to do it. Do you have a similar list of books that you would recommend somebody who's interested in getting to customer experience to read?
Huh, I'm looking as we're talking it here. I like CX. I don't know if I could tell you like a CX thing.
Okay.
One book that helped me a lot to like understand customer behavior and I will understand kind of like more about how the human brain thinks, like Think Fast and Slow. I think that Thinking Fast and Slow was something that helped me out. Oh, there are things that are like ingrained that you don't even think about, and there are things that you have to think about. So I would say that would be one that also help you like kind of like the mind shift on how customers think. And let me think. I cannot. Another one that was good about data, how to utilize data. It was recommended by a great coworker that I have, Factfulness, which was all how like what do you believe or not do you believe on data and how to tell kind of the story with data. Which is ironic that I read that book and then later on, many years later, my son was utilizing that book for a class, an epic class. So things like that again that not necessarily CX books that I could tell you, but certainly different parts of like behavioral psychology or data management or like from leadership or things like that that I get and I try to apply some of those principles to the work that I do day to day.
So this question, I realized when I don't know a couple months ago that my son has no idea what I do for a living. Right? He's 16, and I think we were looking at the Chick-fil-A app, and he's like, "Mom, let me help you navigate this app." And I'm like, "Bro, stop." So I'll ask you: do your kids know what you do for a living? And if so, what do they think?
They know that they do customer experience. You tell them to dig a little deeper, they know nothing about. So what the way that I try to explain it to them is like I try to make your life easier, the life easier between you and whatever company you work with. And I think that's like the way that I even explain it to my parents who live in a different country and speak a different language and have they're from a different generation. Is like whatever you work with, which a lot of times is digital, and even if it's not digital, even if it's like paper or in person, somebody created. That is not a coincidence how they're telling you hello at a store, or if they say my pleasure at Chick-fil-A or whatever, right? So those things, those interactions, day after day, they're more consciously created and they are designed for you to behave a certain way, do certain things. So it's not that we're losing our agency or anything, but we're in a thin line. I feel I'm not maybe too deep to discussing here, but it becomes really like how can we help customers make a good decision, and that it becomes tricky. A good decision both for the business, like we were saying, and the customer as well.
All right, perfect. I'll ask you one last question, then we can wrap it up. Is there anything else you would like to leave my audience with? Any other takeaways?
I believe that UX research is so highly needed. I think more companies should be doing. I would say that that's something that to me is something that I've discovered. I wish I would be doing more. I engage a lot with our UX researcher in our company. I think more companies would utilize the different tools available out there to test. I mean, we need to test everything before we deploy. That to me, we were talking with a team yesterday. Like, nothing that I deploy cannot be tested. Everything has to be tested, and not at least once, several times, because we need to understand how people are going to react. And if you're surprised at any point after deployment, shame on you, because you should have seen that coming. And if there's a reaction that people don't, or engagement center calls increase or something, you should have seen that coming. And the only way to see that should be through research. Yes, there are gonna be situations where things are gonna pass and what have you, but the more you test, the more you're gonna find out. And maybe the plugin there is like, don't only focus about the usability side of testing, but focus on the desirability, or how much is this going to help the customer achieve the job to be done, or whatever measurement that you're tracking, right? So it's not only how it's gonna look or how it feels, but also is it going to help whatever they're trying to achieve at the end of the day.
That's perfect. Elio, I listen, so many snippets you're gonna sing yourself as memes for like the next few weeks. Just listen, he said it. He said it better than I could have. I really appreciate you taking the time to join us today. I'll probably, if you're okay with it, I'll drop your LinkedIn so people can follow you. But I really appreciate you joining us today.
Sounds good. Thank you so much, and it's been my pleasure. Thank you so much, Adrian, for having me over.
Absolutely. Thank you.